Welcome to LiveDnd. We're a group of tabletop role-playing game enthusiasts who are passionate about sharing the joys and benefits of this amazing hobby with as many people as possible. From the history of the hobby and the evolution of games like Dungeons and Dragons, to the core concepts and mechanics that drive the action, we'll be covering it all. So be sure to like and subscribe to follow along. Tabletop role-playing games, or TTRPGs, have their roots in wargaming, a hobby that has been around for centuries. Players would use miniature figures and dice to simulate battles and strategies on a tabletop battlefield. In the 1950s and 60s, fantasy and science fiction writers began to adapt these war games for entertainment purposes, creating the first prototypes of what we now know as TTRPGs. In 1971, Gary Gygax created Chainmail, rules for medieval-style combat using miniature figures, as well as a fantasy supplement that introduced elements like magic spells and dragons. Chainmail played a crucial role in the early development of tabletop role-playing games and remains an important piece of gaming history. Gygax and his colleague Dave Arneson developed these ideas into a new type of game that focused on individual character development and storytelling, rather than just simulating battles. This game, called Dungeons&Dragons, or D&D, was published by TSR in 1974 and quickly gained a devoted following. The original edition of D&D consisted of 3 booklets: Men and Magic, Monsters and Treasure, and The Underworld and Wilderness Adventures. It focused on dungeon crawls and combat, and had a very basic system for character creation and advancement. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, or AD&D, released in 1977, expanded upon the original rule set and introduced new character classes and a more detailed system for character creation and advancement. It also introduced the concept of alignments, which determined a character's moral and ethical beliefs. In 1997, TSR was purchased by Wizards of the Coast, a company known for their collectible card game Magic: The Gathering. In 1999, Wizards of the Coast was itself purchased by Hasbro, a multinational toy and board game company. The third edition, or 3E, released the following year, introduced the D20 system, which used a single 20-sided die to determine the outcome of most actions. It also introduced the concept of feats, which allowed characters to gain additional abilities and skills. The latest iteration of the popular game, D&D 5e, or 5th edition, was published in 2014. It introduced the concept of backgrounds, which allowed players to further customize their characters by choosing a background and personality traits. D&D 5e is known for its flexibility and accessibility, making it a great entry point for new players to the tabletop role-playing game hobby. In January 2023, Wizards of the Coast announced that the full D&D system reference Document 5.1, SRD 5.1, would be released under the CC BY 4.0 license. The SRD 5.1 contains the basic rules and mechanics of D&D 5e and is intended to be used as a reference for creating third-party content, such as adventures, supplements, and gaming aids. This means that the SRD 5.1 is now openly available for anyone to use, modify, and share, as long as proper attribution is given to the original source. The release of the SRD 5.1 under the CC BY 4.0 license has been met with excitement from the D&D community, as it opens up new opportunities for creativity and collaboration. While each edition of D&D has introduced new elements to the system, they all share the core concept of a group of players working together to tell a collaborative story using dice and rules to determine the outcome of actions. This is, in fact, the core concept of all TTRPGs and has spawned games in a wide variety of genres and styles, from epic fantasy to post-apocalyptic survival to superhero adventures.